your councilwoman to add some additional remarks. But a couple quick things I will have here in a second, or after the councilwoman makes her remarks, I'll have everybody introduce themselves. This is, I always think it's helpful, sometimes you may hear from some folks or they can answer some questions that you may have specifically. But also we like to put names with faces and whether you send us an email or you see our folks out in the community, certainly we want to make sure that if nothing else, they're here and perhaps they'll be here a couple minutes after if you have any specific questions. We want you to get to know the people that lead our departments and make the city successful. So when Councilwoman Breyer is finished, we'll have our folks introduce themselves and then we'll jump into questions. So thank you guys so much for being here. And a quick one more reminder, if you do want to speak, again, I got a little stack of forms here. Casey right there in the back can get you a form. Make sure you get that to her, and we'll do our best to get your questions answered. But thank you guys again for being here, and I'll pass it to Councilwoman Breyer.
Keep going. Welcome, and I'm glad you're all here. And I just want to remind that this is really about you guys. This is about getting your questions answered and making sure that you know how to get to people to get any of your issues taken care of that you might need. So for you guys, that starts with me. So if you don't have my phone number, make sure that you get a card of mine at the table, and I'll promise to respond and make sure that we work on these issues. So I'm thankful that you're here, and let you do this and introduce everybody.
All right, we've got the microphone all the way down there, and but before Lisa goes, we'll just want to mention too, she means what she says. She comes with as loaded an agenda for our meetings as anybody, and I like that. It makes me feel confident when our council, and a lot of our council does that. I mean, it does a very good job of coming in prepared, listening to the questions, and sometimes we can solve it that day. Sometimes we got to work on it. Sometimes it takes a little longer than we all hope, but that gives me confidence moving forward that someone that is doing what they've signed up to do, which is to have their ear to the ground for a district and make sure that no matter the problem, big or small, something citywide or something with a stop sign or something else, we're gonna. She's been on top of it, and that certainly speaks to the job she's doing, but also helps myself and helps this administration do a great job. So just didn't want to go any further without mentioning that. I appreciate that very much. All right, Mike's down there for Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Dees, your Parking and Constituent Services 311 Director.
The blue spaces, not the red.
I'm Erica Grant-Cagnolo, Economic Development Director.
I'm Fred Crenshaw, Sanitation Fleet Management Director.
Tanya Bird, Interim Parks and Recreation Director.
I'm Amy Miller. I'm one of the 2 deputy city administrators in the mayor's office, and the departments that are in my reporting line are the port, the airport, parking, parks and recreation, Pensacola Energy Natural Gas Company, and the Sanger Theater.
Hi, I'm Amy Chudel. I'm the Public Works and Facilities Director.
Hi, Jenny Craner. I serve as your fire chief.
Good evening, Eric Randall. I'm the police chief.
Hi, I'm Sherry Morris. I'm the Development Services Director. There are 3 divisions under that department: Planning and Zoning, Inspections, and the Community Redevelopment Agency.
Hi, I'm Meredith Reese, and I'm your Assistant Housing Director.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll start with questions, and again, if you'll fill those out. If we get through these and we've got some extra time, then I'll normally have kick it off with our police and fire department to give you your public safety. Whatever survey you ever look at is always the number one concern of any constituent. So we certainly want to make sure they give you some updates, and then we can get to other updates in different departments as well if time allows. But we'll start with speakers. Sharon Dickinson.
Woohoo!
I came for one purpose, was to thank Jennifer for getting our stop signs on Langley and decreasing some of that traffic. Woo-hoo! Yeah, woohoo! I felt safe coming out because I always came around on Hibiscus and turned left, and there was a curve. And when the soccer was playing, there was cars parked right up there. So I thank her so much, and I think it's going very smooth. But I didn't know. Can you tell us what's happening to the trash pickup and the changes?
Yeah, I can help summarize, and then, yeah, certainly I'll
Somebody
have.
told me, well, no, they're gonna be picking up 2 days a week for every household.
Yeah, so what we're looking at, nothing's finalized yet, but that's the direction we're going, and here's the reason why. We have contamination in our recycling of 50%. That is not a new number. That is since this has started, give or take. So it's not. I've gotten an email earlier today and said, well, why don't we work on an education campaign about lowering contamination? We've already been doing that, and that shows you how ineffective that's been. So those have already been happening several years, including since I've been in office. There's been a campaign. I've spoken about it at press conferences to try to lower contamination. It's very difficult to do. So 50% contamination, the MRF is shut down several times a year. By the time you go all the way down to what's actually being recycled, there's a reason that communities all over the country are moving away from what I'm calling mandatory recycling, because I recycle in my house. I love having that luxury. I'm not understating the value of that. But the reality is when it's forced and half or more of the people in the city don't care one way or the other, it becomes a second garbage can, which then takes away all of the ability and undermines the people's ability that do want to recycle to be able to do so. When you add to the fact that it was $35 a ton to take something to the recycling as of a couple of weeks ago, that's going to go to $60 a ton plus a $250 fine if it's over contaminated. So if you do the math, give or take, we're going from $35 a ton to $85 a ton to drop off recycling. That would have to be passed on to the customer. So if we kept going the same way we were going, we would have to give all 21,000 accounts a cost increase, whether they're recycling or not. And it's really just to pay for people that are using the can as a second garbage can. So what's that? Yes, so we're going to. So our alternative, what we're looking at now, and Fred, and this is meetings with Fred, myself, Amy, David Forte. Trust me, there's probably 4 or 5 meetings internally. We've talked about this over recent months, but so we try to set the value of living in the city. That's something Councilwoman Breyer and I talk about all the time, whether that's maintaining parks, having stop signs in, and those kinds of things. And so what we said is, hey, one of the ways to set the value of living in the city, if this isn't working, is why don't we pick up garbage twice a week? We used to do that. It was on Monday and Thursdays or Tuesdays and Fridays, and that'll be what we'll do for now. And that does not mean we're going to stop recycling forever. We are still continuing to work with ECUA on potential assisted manned drop-off facilities, not like the one here that still is contaminated on Summit, but someone that's working there that makes sure it's not contaminated, as well as looking at a for-pay. If someone's going to pay a few extra dollars a month, it's probably not going to be contaminated because you're paying that for that service. So if you want that convenience, it might be a for-pay thing, and we would work with ECUA about coming and swinging in and picking up those accounts. So you'll get a survey potentially. Hopefully you guys do get it from the Haas Center at University of West Florida that you get every year from the city, and we have asked that question. I believe we just picked a range, $6 to $8 more a month. Would you be willing to pay that? And we'll see what percentage of the city would do it, and we'll run numbers and see if that makes sense. So again, I know sometimes it can be a touchy subject to take away recycling, but I would challenge and contend that we might not be recycling to begin with right now. We need to get our feet on the ground and figure out a solution the best way forward. So
it will basically make recycling optional?
Well, two phases. What I would say is starting October 1st, you won't have a recycling can. You will have one black can, and then we will pick it up twice a week instead of once a week. So there is a big benefit to that for a lot of people in our community. And if you miss trash day, you're not stuck with trash there for an entire week. I think we've all been there, including me.
Yeah, for me.
Exactly. So that's phase one. Phase two is we are already exploring other options to provide a much more efficient recycling experience alongside ECUA. I don't fault them for this. Why are they upping the price per ton? Because their costs are going up significantly. People are putting things that they hope can be recycled in the can that can't be recycled. So there's a lot that goes into that. So we have to make that decision from a financial to protect the rising cost of your bill. So we have to make this phase one decision now. But in the coming months, we'll come up with something, whether it's drop-off facilities, optional. Which part? Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
For everybody, not
Yeah.
just for this guy that runs some other businesses that would have.
Well, first off,
CA newsletter, I heard it.
and the mayor does a weekly press conference. I think he's on the radio a couple times a week with different radios. I mean, he's very forward in getting as much information out there. We can always, Sharon, through those different email things we collected years ago, we can make sure that our district gets all this information. I'm sure the different neighborhood associations will be passing it along. But I want to hit on something he said about hopeful, is that a lot of people who really, really love recycling and feel good about doing it, they find themselves, in the research it shows that they find themselves hopeful that this one piece that's really, they know it's not quite recyclable, but surely they'll find something to do with it. So they add it to the garbage, and then it gets dumped in that thing, and everything is now contaminated. And so it's a real dilemma. And we're only talking about probably, I think you told me that what your sister-in-law said was cardboard and aluminum.
Yeah, aluminum, commercial cardboard, commercial plastic, in terms of what you can get some actual return for.
What people are actually in, because we could try to recycle glass, but no one's really interested in it right now. And or things like that, paper. So we have to, if there's no market for it, then they're just dumping it into the
landfill anyway.
The landfill anyway. So that's what. This is a really tough topic. I don't even like to go there. And so the mayor has a lot of, but the mayor's being real honest here about what's really happening, and that's what we all need to do, is have that true communication so we can make good decisions on these going forward.
Yeah.
Survey from West Florida.
Yeah, Casey, that's going, the Haas Center survey is going out probably the next day or two, right? Or I don't know when it'll hit the field, but I know it's finalized.
It's getting finalized now, so
Yeah.
probably in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say, we still have to wait for the hospital to finalize.
Yeah. So that'll give us a good data point. If 21,000 accounts, if let's say 12% of the city says that they would be willing to pay a fee, well, then that gives us the data to go to ECUA and say, well, what would we need to charge if we were going to offer that? And our goal wouldn't be this isn't a profit venture. This would be to provide that service. We would make it the bare minimum cost to have ECUA come in and get it and all that. So lots of different ways. They actually call on the phone, email. Haas does a really good job. We got really well beyond the sample size. I think it was like 800 or 900 responses or something last year, which is.
A lot of old people don't have the email.
Yeah, we got you covered.
They don't answer the phone for people that are not,
Well, we're going to make them come knock on the door then. You just give me their address. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
And again, I want to give credit to Fred. Remember that just taking one can up, think about picking up 21,000 brown cans. That's got to happen. For us to go to twice a week, the day off was Friday, it's now Wednesday. Well, you got to get a whole entire workforce that's now changing their day. So a lot of credit to Fred and his team for working through this. We're making sure that we don't have any blind spots of that was going to be some kind of added cost or anything like that. So, it seems like a subtle change, but there's a lot that goes into it, and they've done a great job helping us adapt.
Yeah, I was just going to let you know, for the Haas resident survey that we do every year, we do send a postcard to every single resident. So it'll have a QR code with a link where you can complete the survey, and you can also call. There is a phone option. But every resident will be getting a postcard in the mail. So we make sure.
But listen, when I walked around a year or 2 years ago, the older people in the population, they know nothing about this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I know. But
Never, Sharon.
Well, just know on the garbage thing, we haven't, as I said, we haven't even fully finalized that. We mentioned it, first time it was mentioned publicly was on Tuesday. So, and it's the reason we're doing it this early. It won't go into effect until October 1st. That gives us as much runway as we can. We made it public as soon as we felt comfortable enough that was the direction we're going to go, and we'll spend the next couple of months getting the word out. So, Susan Morgan.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jennifer, and our chiefs, and everybody else that is here. I appreciate it. Town Square townhomes, which butt up against the mall, has a flooding problem. I know, surprise, surprise, we have flooding problems. My husband, David Morgan, and I, we own 5 in properties in that area. Every time we have some type of bad weather, in particular this one that we had on, I think it was June 15th, the mall floods, and all the water comes down to our properties, and it goes over all of their drains. You can watch it go out there, it just goes straight in, it goes over the curb, goes under the fence, it goes through the back doors, and it goes through the front doors. That's how much pressure there is. And this is not the first time. And so I had contacted our councilwoman and also our county commissioner, Bender, about it. And she did look into it. And what Mr. Highnote had pointed out was, that's right, Amy, you were on there too. Anyway, pointed out that the controversy is who's on first, who built what first. And so he pointed out that the mall was built first, and then Town Square, the developer should have taken this into consideration, and so on and so forth. So I'm not wanting to get into a pissing contest, and I'm not asking for a reimbursement, but what I'm asking, if there's any way this can be fixed, because it's not going to be the only time. We just spent thousands of dollars with Serpro, and there's nothing that's keeping us from spending thousands this weekend if we have another one. So there's a question about who owns that. I heard that Belk owns the particular lot, then Simon, and then just different people. So what we're asking for someone from the city to contact Cordova to see, first of all, their drains are not very big, and so the water rushes right over it, to find out how often are they cleaning them, and that if there's anything else the city can do to remedy that water from just going straight into those properties. And that's basically it. That's what we're requesting.
And I want to add for you is, she said that what you can see the water is going directly over the drainage ditches. So they've not been cleaned. They're completely packed, so it's overtaking them and coming in. Is there something, I can call them and ask for them to support looking at this with you for sure, and I'm willing to do that. Is there any other thing?
Yeah, so every commercial development that has a stormwater pond and is permitted through DEP has to abide by the requirements of their permit. And part of that is making sure that their stormwater system is in compliance. So what we can do is always call FDEP and make sure that they're abiding by their permit. I don't really know in terms of who to call, but I guess we can try to find out and remind them of those requirements. But that is about the extent of what we can do, because it's a commercial development. So,
is that street there belong to them?
Which street?
It's the street behind the mall and that butts up against.
Oh, the one that comes at the back of
yes,
the mall?
yeah.
Yes, that is in there.
Yeah,
that is
sorry.
theirs. But I'll call them tomorrow, okay, and let them know that we are looking into asking FDEP to evaluate their drainage and see if it is compliant.
Yeah, and I'm not wanting to be a jerk about it. I'm just hoping that they'll go, well, let's see what we can do to help.
I think this
You know?
particular neighborhood has had literally from back door to front door flood
Yes.
through. I think your neighbor told me maybe 6 or 7 times
Yeah.
in the last 20 years. That's
Yeah.
significant.
And part of the
Yeah.
challenges that we see within the city is that, the stormwater requirements and pond requirements came into effect many, many years ago.
Right.
And so when these developments were built, they had older stormwater requirements. We don't go, the DEP doesn't go back and say, hey, go back and you need to upsize your pond,
Right.
upsize your stormwater system. So as the years have gone by and we see more and more of these storms, those storms aren't, those stormwater ponds are not designed to handle these significant storms. And really, quite honestly, even the new requirements, for the 2014 flood or the one we had back in June, our current requirements can't handle storms like that. Unfortunately, those storms keep coming, and so it really does kind of showcase the infrastructure of our city and how challenging it can be.
Well, and I think that's it. And if it wasn't, can it be? So and that is the question, what can we do to go forward to fix these things? Instead of always saying, well, that's the way it was. So what can we do?
Well, I'll say, and this doesn't speak to your specific issue, obviously, that's private property and all that, but, you know, we're starting to have, it's not for this year's budget, you won't see it in this year's budget, but we're starting to have real adult conversations about how we're gonna fix stormwater. And what I mean is, 2021, there was an estimate that the stormwater assessment should be $100, I believe, per, it was at 70. And an outside expert said, if you're going to even just break even to clean all your ponds, all that, it would need to be 100. And I believe we raised it to 80.
We raised $7.24 or something like that. We did not raise it enough, and that's an entire year. So, I mean, and that's what the mayor is saying. We've got to have real conversations about raising it to the point where we can actually take care of our stormwater, which is critical.
And those dollars are earmarked, have to be used. It's not you take in a fee and you can use it to mow the parks. It's specifically tied within Public Works' budget that has to be spent on those things. So we have that, and we're not treading water on just what it takes to provide what we need. So, and that's not a per $1,000. That's a flat number. So you know what it's going towards, and you know. So again, it's not a conversation we're ready to have in this budget. This the first one coming out, but. Just putting that on the back burner for everybody. One of the ways we can get serious about it is we've got to be able to you know, tread water with funding the stormwater that we do have and make sure that we have it all cleaned out. But you know, we do what we can right now, and you know, we go from there. But Sam Matthews.
Sure. Thank you. I did forward it. Amy got this today. Yeah.
So back in 2018, we were frustrated because our kids from Scenic Heights Elementary School, San Gabriel, and a number of other streets don't have sidewalks. The school district will not pick up kids in elementary school if they live within a mile of the school, which means almost all of the local kids that attend Scenic Heights Elementary School walk in the streets. I mean, your grandmother lives in the neighborhood. And we sent this proposal for sidewalks up the ladder. It made it through the city, and it got a really good review. We were just a little short. And my wife rides her bicycle 30 or 40 miles on Sunday morning. Good for her. And she said, they were building a really nice sidewalk on Firestone. What happened to ours? Well, you know, it's a nice thing. So I would like for the city to see if there's any piece of this, particularly San Gabriel, if you could figure out, once you finish with Firestone, what we can do about this proposal. That's
And his point here is that the number one goal was to initially connect parks and schools so that people could get to schools and get to parks. And we might be a little bit outside that aim in some of the first targeted sidewalks. So he's asking us to take a look at that. On San Gabriel that's the side that the walkers are released on. And then most of them walk north, and there is no sidewalk. So they're dumped onto the street and out in the road, vying with the cars. So that's what Sam's concern is, and I can promise you that I'll hound him a little bit about this, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Second topic, I don't know if you're aware of it. We have a large apartment complex going on county property that's gerrymandered in a little niche. And I'm looking at Chief Randall with the traffic people, and somebody needs to talk to Chip Simmons and say, is the deputy going to be there to help us out with the traffic, or is that going to be on Pensacola? I just think looking ahead is better than looking behind.
Yeah.
But we're concerned in Scenic Heights. We got these lovely stop signs. We got a roundabout that nobody's died in, that everybody said, oh, we're going to crash and burn. People in Europe can do it, we can do it. But I don't know what's going to happen when people head to class in the morning and come home.
Yeah.
So.
Thank goodness for
That's the truth.
Well, and look, as someone who came in and looked at the city limit lines very closely and see the cul-de-sac that's not within.
It's our island. We
right.
call it as our island.
You can see it. You can see it from here. That they, I totally understand that. And look, as someone that has to fix and repair sidewalks or make decisions on repaving roads and police and fire resources being so precious, if something happens there, the county resident, in this case, or at least the ownership, is using a city road to get in and out. That's Langley. That's more volume that we would have to repave. I certainly will. It's been on my list. Haven't been able to get to it, but to meet with the owners and see if there's something that we could work out. At the end of the day, it's in effect in the city. We need to maybe formalize that and see if there's something that we could do.
The burden increase on your guys.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to not report, as our police and fire always do, in the call of duty is, whether it's just in the county line or not, they show up fearlessly. So we know that any call coming there, our folks are going to be there. And so I would love to get that straightened out. So, good observation. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, Barbara Trindle.
You said it right.
Yeah, I went to one that went with that. Exactly.
Hi. I just wanted to comment on the Bay Bluffs Park. I drive by there every day. We have moved from the west side, built a house on Scenic Highway here, and I never paid much attention. I've been there one time since we've been here in 5 years. And so we had some friends go to dinner and we said, well, let's go to Bay Bluffs, after dinner and walk down there. Well, it's closed. And I'm like, really? And then someone told me it had been closed since March, okay, per order of the maintenance department, okay? Every day I drive by there, there are 6, 7, 8 cars parked in the parking lot. No trespassing signs, which concerns me because we've had train incidents there, we've had people get hurt there. And my concern is that make you guys liable if you don't have a no trespassing sign and people are jumping that little tiny barrier and going and using the park? And I mean, every day. I assumed it was open. And so I was so shocked to see it was closed when we went that night. I'm like, well, why are there always people here? So my concern is there, would a no trespassing sign help to keep that liability down for the city?
So I'll let Tanya speak to the signage and all that, but I will say we've had a conversation about this recently. That was during the rash of about 2 or 3 different things, including Malcolm Young, including City Hall, that really hadn't been looked at to be maintained. Right. And so we've got to get serious again about maintaining the things that we have. Where we were getting a little misaligned with some of our vendors in this case, not their fault, but just we weren't looking for a big, overarching, large dollar amount assessment in the case of a boardwalk. What we want is someone to go out there and repair it, right? And so we don't want to use, we didn't want to irresponsibly use taxpayer money, a 5-figure number for someone to just go look and say this needs a new board. So we're trying to find that happy medium. We don't want to reopen it until it's safe, but it's not the same as a potential issue like Malcolm Young. That's a gymnasium and an interior closed off building. But in terms of signage and all that, I'll pass that off to Tanya.
So there should be, and I'll drive by there and make sure that there's still
I have pictures
park
if you need. I just drove by here before I came here, so
Yeah,
there's nothing.
We did put up park closed signs,
Right.
so if they're gone, then I will.
Well, the park
definitely-
closed are there, but
Okay.
people are just jumping over and still going. I mean, there's nothing to say
Yeah.
trespassing, $1,000 fine or anything like that to deter anybody. And like this, if people bring their dogs down there, it's always full.
It's
So
a
I'm like,
constant battle, and other than having somebody posted there 24/7.
Yeah. But you don't think just putting a no trespassing sign
I
would
don't
help
think it
deter
would
some
help.
people?
No,
Right.
we have people break rules in the parks and stay in the parks after they're closed, when they're closed.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking liability, you guys.
I think from a
you never know.
liability standpoint, I can't speak to that because I'm not an attorney, but our city attorney's office can answer that.
Well, like I said, we used to live in the west side. My taxes from building our house went up $3,000 a year. So I'm like, well, let's make sure our money's being spent right.
I do know that our city attorney's office did look at the sign language, the park closed sign language, to make sure that it was sufficient, and they said that it was. So
Okay.
I certainly defer to them.
Well, the city's full of lawyers. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, there's always a way around.
Of course.
My second little thing I want to say is there any reason we can't just paint the bike lane logo on the right lane on Summit? instead of going through all this hoopla, changing everything and just
Well, you
like through any
primed the
street.
pump for the Summit Boulevard portion of our speaker sign-up
Oh.
forms. Happy to get into that, and really want to hear your concerns. And I'll preface by saying, obviously this is a process that had started, and just to be clear, if we're asked about this, I have not. Our team, our staff, Caitlin and Transportation is going through the data that was collected in these two meetings, and I have not seen that yet. They have a draft, so I'm not going to be able to speak to, it would be irresponsible to, and I have no opinion on what we're going to do or not going to do at this point. Regardless, there is no budget allotted, that there would have to be a decision made there as well. So just keep that in mind. In case I want to lower any anxiety that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and there's going to be something. There's still a lot of steps regardless of. But I can speak for me and say I'm not really taking a stance on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense at this point till I see we did all this work. I'm not going to just throw that in the garbage and make a one-sided decision. But no, I appreciate it, and I know we'll get into some of that. Thank you for your questions. All right, Jim Miller.
I'm sorry, I'm not really well prepared, but found out this meeting was happening recently. I think you know why I'm here, right, to Summit plan. I wrote the council a letter about the study. I think the study has shortcomings in several areas, right? Incomplete data. I think it draws the wrong conclusions and it ignores obvious conclusions. So it really needs a look. Several people in the room know me. I'm an engineer. That's what I do. I look at data. I analyze it. I make conclusions. I think my analysis of the plan is accurate. Spoke at City Council the other night. Talked about what we shouldn't do here, right? I think it's a waste of money trying to convert this kind of neighborhood into people that can ride their bike to work, try to get people downtown with that traffic exceeds a lot. I spoke the other day, so I think my words stand. What I really didn't get to today at council was where we can spend this money, right? If you're going to spend money, and I'm glad that we haven't made a decision yet, right? Because if there's a process to be had when it's time to allocate money, we should weigh the cost benefit of the options that are available, right? If we're going to try to improve walkability and maybe in this hot environment, maybe bikeability, which I think is a stretch. But if we're going to try to improve that, we should focus on the neighborhoods that need it, right? There are a lot of neighborhoods in the study shows it, that have low vehicle ownership, right? We should focus on those. Those people need a way to get transportation, whether it's public transportation. I kind of think bike conversion is a stretch. Even in New York City with a really nice, better climate, 6% of the people bike. That's it, right? And so it's probably not going to get a lot of conversion, but better sidewalks for those people, access to public transportation in those areas, I think is something the study didn't address. The quick win options, nothing really talked to those neighborhoods. The other thing is the plan right now doesn't look at east-west at all and is not integrated with the county plan at all. It might be, somebody maybe on the council is looking at that, but that study addresses none of that. So glad there's a lot more decisions and there'll be a lot more input, and I think you can expect more input from a lot of people. Sure. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, I just want to tell you that we are all looking very happy, and I personally have not made a decision. I think that I agree with you that the data really needs to be looked at very cleanly, and I think there's some missing pieces in the data too that I have asked for, and I think we're all. I hope that the public understands that there has not been a decision made.
I think that's not super clear.
I don't think it's super clear either, and I know that people have been confused thinking that a decision has been made and that we're just trying to do something, but I can promise you that I have not made a decision. I mean, I'm leaning. I've leaned both ways at different times as I've analyzed, and I'll probably continue to do that for a while I'm trying to sift through it, and I definitely want to hear from the constituents and those who this is going to impact the most first. So I just want to assure you that we really have not made a decision.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
And some other things that have happened since this has started is obviously a decision, and really you could look at it if this was 9th Avenue, if this was whether it's Summit, 9th, anywhere else. It crosses several council districts, and especially now, so that even really more when this process started, that it affects 1, 3, and 4 significantly. And we have an active transportation plan that we have to look at, and certainly it's listed in there along with other things as well. So, as the councilwoman said, I think that we try to rely not on emotional decisions, but what the data tells us and making sure that data is accurate. So I can tell you my timeline is we'll get the draft of the feedback from the 2 sessions as well as the data. And if there's a couple inconsistencies that Councilwoman Breyer and I talked about, and let's see if those are legitimate or if there's some way for those to be explained, because what's the use of relying on data if something doesn't make sense? So we got some work to do, and figuring out what's best, and go. And as I said, I'm happy to hear any opinions about it. I don't want to give out the impression we're shutting those down. I just didn't want anyone to think that to have to come up today because we're worried about a lane going in tomorrow. So we are still truly in fact-finding mode at this point. And again, happy to hear any feedback and concerns that you have. So, Jim, thank you. All right, Joe Wade.
Oh, the weapon. There it is, Chief.
Board of Education.
I'm just here representing the 100+ and growing fast oppositions from districts 1, 3, and 4 on my petition to oppose the Summit Lane repurposing. And on the behalf, I just want to point out a couple of details. I've left you 3 documents there, 2 of which were I provided last time I spoke about the city council meeting. I just want to have just to read them easier with paper copy. The top one there is one I put together about 50 hours of research to look into Atkins study and all the other things that they aren't telling you. And just to let you know, the average speed on Summit per the Atkins studies is 38.1 miles per hour. And they're telling 50 and 40 mile an hour on PJ. I don't know where they get those numbers from, but it doesn't come from the Atkins study. Long story short, I just wanted to say that the first guiding principle on the ATP is put safety first, the old safety mantra. So what they have to do is build a case. They have to build a case that there's a very dangerous, you put your life on your hands when you get on your bike and walk down the street down Summit. How do you do that? Make some huge statistic. So if they come up with, hey, they got 10 cyclists and pedestrians have been killed, 36 injured over a 5-year period. What's that mean? They say they use context-sensitive solutions in their design. Well, in context, it's 2 cyclists killed per year and 6 injured. Well, if you put it in terms of the 54,000 in the population of the city of Pensacola, that's 4/1000th of a percent of the population is killed or injured by bicycles. 1/100th is injured. We talk about context. How many fentanyl overdoses happen in Escambia County? 34 per 10,000. That's 34 times more than the number of cyclists killed per year. How many ladder deaths happen in the U.S.? 15 times more. So we're talking about context, but what they do is they bring out, let's change the statistic a little bit. Let's go for Vision Zero. Vision Zero safety fantasy is nothing more than a way to secure permanent bureaucracy that just can't achieve that infinite impossible denominator of 0. They do it to secure bureaucracy. So it's impossible. Read this like saying, well, we just got to outlaw births because, births just have a 0% chance of, a death rate. A 0% death rate because we all eventually die. I mean, that's what they're using. So that's a joke. It's Vision Zero. But the one thing I do want to mention is that, again, the speed. Let's say safety and speed are the 2 things I always bring up about this biking. Well, 0 crashes on bikes, 0 crashes on car crashes in the 4 years that was on the own ATP's presentation for 2016 to 2020. I've looked it up because they seem to have discrepant information out there. For some reason, the city presentation seems to claim there's 64 crashes, but they don't give any details, any sources. They don't give any context to that, location, what it is, or anything like that. So where did they get that number? And how come it doesn't match the statistics there on the state dashboards about that layout that still support 0 and 0 during that 4-year period? So when you talk about Summit Lane, what they do is they take a statistic, it's state or federal levels, and they extrapolate that and put it into the city context. They look, all these people are dying in Florida. Well, not on Summit Lane. So you don't apply a statistic that's real vague to a complete community somewhere else. And the surveys, why do you do surveys that are blatant attempts to gaslight the public? That's another thing. That survey is a joke, the one that has 102 people on it. first of all, an online survey can be easily manipulated by people that are bike enthusiasts in New York filling it out. I mean, come on, it's not no statistical correlation to that. And they forget, you can't use that for statistical analysis at all. By the way, that thing says only 75% of the respondents on that one even admit that they only use bike for exercise, recreation, bike events, maybe 1-2 times a week. So you're going to sit there and pay $21,000 per mile to put in just the paint, and double that if you put the barriers down. For somebody that's going to use a bike lane maybe 2% of the time, 2-3 hours a week. And it's kind of, only 13% said they would bike to work or school on that 102 respondent survey. So I think what's happening here is safety is being manipulated. And you have to have these mantras to hide a real agenda here. What is that agenda? To encourage people out of their cars. So why are they doing that? Well, I gave 2 documents right there. I talked about the city council meeting. One is the mitigation plan for task force that was done by Elaine Sargent and another person that was, both of whom were on some radical climate change agenda organizations. If you look at their websites, they even condone having bikers block lanes if they don't get what they want. On their own websites of the people that were on that board for the 2018 climate mitigation. The other one is the ATP, and that's where they keep putting the safety first, putting the safety mantra, is what I call it. There's no way to hit Vision Zero. 2 people per year is not a bad statistic. And even, so what we're saying here is that please look at those 2 documents. Have all the council members read those. I made hard copies for you. Pass it around the office if you can. The top document is the one I put together that goes into extensive detail about all these things that I mentioned here and the Atkins study, and also the things that hopefully are raising some concerns. And I emailed them all to you, and hopefully you got them. But thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
All right, Laura McKnight.
Hi, good evening. It's nice to see all y'all this evening. I live on Langley Avenue, and I'm a resident of Scenic Heights. And I just had a couple of quick questions. I know at one of our previous neighborhood association meetings, we had talked about getting a new fence for the city park there at Scenic Heights. Is there any update on that?
I know that had gotten passed through. I saw that on my email, but yes, I know it's on our radar because I've seen the photos of it. And I'm not sure if that's within Parks and Rec or Public Works.
It's Parks and Rec. Tanya said that it had not been evaluated as yet. So we'll work on that quickly. You know that you guys got the grant to redo stuff at Scenic Heights Park, so I'm really hopeful that we will get a fence there so it highlights beautifully. Yes, we're definitely working on that.
Okay, and then a couple of other comments I had. We've had a lot of heavy equipment trucks coming up and down Langley Avenue, and so I don't know if there's anything that can be done about the speed with those trucks. And it's also, doing some damage to the road. I don't know if maybe they could talk about taking a different route. I guess it's up at the airport that they're doing the work. So I don't know if that's something that we could discuss. And then while I'm up here, because my husband stepped out of the room, but we want to make sure that there's public access to American Magic. He's so excited about that being here. And my grandkids have enjoyed watching them out in the bay and everything. So we do want to make sure that there are areas where the public will be able to access those facilities and kind of see what's going on there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to also point out, so Ms. McKnight here is one of the initiators over a decade ago for stop signs on Langley. Anyway, so she's like, don't tell me, they might throw something at me. But so she has worked for over a decade to get those stop signs on Langley. So
I'm so happy to have her. I would just stare at them.
I believe that was one of the ones on the list where I started and like a week later they got put in, and then I take as much credit for it as I can, even though it started months before. I'm new at the politics thing, but thank you for that. And as a matter of fact, what we really need to be rooting for is if American Magic wins, there's a good chance they'd have America's Cup here. And I know that sounds crazy because that's like a Super Bowl size event, but I really believe that they would, given the technical advantages they would have. And I mean, just to give you an understanding of what it takes to operationally, It's like the Olympics every 4 years-ish. Could be 5. It takes $140 million to run that team for 4 years, not counting the $40 million boat and the other boats that they buy. So, I mean, it's heavy investment into an operation like that, and so we're certainly excited. And I think one of the biggest wins of all is really planting the flag for the city of Pensacola to be the sailing capital of the United States. And you don't get opportunities like that where you could unequivocally say, well, the most advanced vessel in America sails in our bay and says it's the best. So anyway, we're very excited.
That right there is really exciting.
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no, I just want to say, actually, and to this, when he's talking in millions and millions, underneath this new administration, I think you guys are around $100 million they've brought in so far on these kind of big ticket items, and really, really doing some stuff that is absolutely amazing. So credit to our mayor's vision, because he sees the big pictures and he goes for them, and they're happening. It's the damnedest thing. I can't even say. Anyway, thanks for doing that. And
I can't let you say that without every single person up here spent significant hours. And if our grants team was here, we would give them special kudos, and that's why we did it, because previous to that, these people are working hard to run good departments and have people show up happy to work every day, and all the things that it takes to run the day-to-day, and then also having to catch every one of these opportunities. So now we've got 2 people who wake up every morning figuring out how we can bring dollars in, but even with those folks, the grants can't win without all of the data and all of the help that I bet in one way or another, every single person up here has played some role in bringing in, whether it's Hollis T. Williams or Brownsville or American Magic or anything else. So it really is a team effort. Yeah, Baptist Hospital as well. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, thank you for saying that, and I just give all the credit to we decide we go in one direction and this team gets it done. So we're very, very excited about the future with all of that. All right, Brian Wire.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate it. I don't want to say the word, but it begins with the letter H. There's been a lot of concern out there because of the rising temperatures and heat wave problems and the ocean temperatures rising, that we may have a severe storm season. And is there any lessons that you may have learned from previous years dealing with dealing with storms and dealing with how things that you put in place maybe to help to prevent some of the issues or problems in the past with them for Pensacola?
Well, actually, Chief Craners talk about somebody who's got a very important day-to-day job that also has additional responsibility to keep us safe. I'll let Chief talk about some of our hurricane prep really on our side. Make sure that I'm a first-year mayor, guys. I like her going through every page of the binder with me, make sure we know what's going on. So Chief does an awesome job at that, and it makes me feel safer that she's in charge. But anyway, she can tell you about some of our hurricane prep plan.
Thank you for that question, because it is just a matter of when, right? We've all, if you live in this community long enough, you know that. We know that disasters are not going to get any easier, and that we have to be prepared. So the big thing is prepare, and then respond, and then recover. Those are our 3 big issues that we participate in as a city for our residents. And the best thing you can do is be resilient in your home. There are grants available through the state that will help you prepare your home, evaluate your roof, evaluate how it's constructed, your truss system, your walls, doors, windows, everything. And those are available through the state. I'm sure that's something that we can work with Casey and her team to get on the website if it's not already on there. And so prepare, number 1. Have your plan for your family, prepare there. Make sure you know where you're going, where your family's going. Depending on the category of the storm, do you need to be where you are? And it starts with knowing your home, knowing your zone, and knowing your plan. If you're in a flood zone, you need to leave, right? So run from the water and hide from the wind is what we say. And we want to make sure everybody's ready with their home. So we have learned a lot with Hurricane Sally in our area, and even just the storm that was mentioned recently with driving your vehicles in areas where we may have manhole covers that are coming up because of the force of water. We saw a sheriff's deputy that was sucked into one of these drains, and the danger of traveling and trying to go and look around when we're in those kinds of risky situations. When the ground is wet and the wind is hard, it pulls up trees, which pulls up underground utilities and causes a tremendous amount of hazards. So the biggest thing would be to make sure that you're staying home and letting first responders clear roads to hospitals and critical infrastructure. So those would be the key takeaways, would be your plan, know your home, know your zone, and make sure you stay off the road and let us do our job.
Yep. Well, Chief, thanks. And just while I'm thinking about it, the town hall is a perfect setting for this. And you, I hope I don't steal this from when you're going to give an update, but make sure that your neighbors have smoke alarms in their house. And when we're at the boots on the ground, that seems obvious, but this has been a rough period for fires in this community. Not because of the amazing response, and I brag on them all the time. One of the top 1% fire departments in the United States, but a lot of that can have something to do with the lack of a smoke alarm in a house at all, and especially in some parts of our underserved community within the city, you see that more and more. So we're working on a big initiative, more to come, but if you know someone, we will pay for it. We will figure out how to get them one. Me and Chief Craner may come put it in for him. Just if you tell him, at least someone, don't want me, someone qualified to do it, but let us know. All you have to do is send us an email, and we'll get one in. So just think about that, especially if you have some elderly relatives that may haven't checked in a while or can't reach, any of those kinds of things. Just do us a favor and make sure that you ask around about that, because that's something that can really save lives. And again, it's not a cost. We'll handle it. You just got to let us know where to go, and we're not going to just wait to hear from folks. We're going to be proactive here in the coming weeks and months with a big citywide initiative to make sure that we have that covered. So that was all of our speaker forms. So I can give updates, or anything that you want to discuss or give updates on.
One thing, I think it was Jim Miller, or maybe it was Joe, that mentioned the fentanyl overdose and numbers. So sorry, Stephanie, but Stephanie's here, and she has started a nonprofit. This is who I keep talking about. Will you stand, please? This is Stephanie Shepard, and Stephanie has started a nonprofit, Hope Above Fear, trying to get initially fentanyl and opiate awareness out to young people particularly. That's really her mission at this point. Minors have very few resources, extremely few resources. Do you want to say anything? Would you like to say anything or not? I'm just telling you that she's doing amazing work, and okay, very quick.
I'm not going to hear any attention to speak. It's my first town hall meeting. It's exciting to hear everybody and to see how it works. But in regards to, I suppose, just thinking of District 1 specifically, so we are working with the school district to bring in a drug awareness program. And I know that one of the things that, so we've gone to 4 different meetings. We met with the superintendent finally on Monday, and everybody that we meet with the school board, all of the directors, all of the specialists, they are wanting to proceed, but their main concern is how parents will react. There's not a drug awareness program within our high schools in Escambia County. I don't believe that this has anything to, I have no idea what each of your roles are and if that's something that any of you can help with, but I did let them know that as I continue to go and speak in different places that I would just bring it up, because even if you're just a parent in the room, just our youth need to have a drug awareness program. They need to know that, that it's what is out there right now, that the devastating effects of just experimenting, even with marijuana, is causing deaths. And so that's what our mission is currently and what we're proceeding with. And we are being welcomed with open arms by the school district. They're just not exactly sure how to proceed, and it does seem to be the continual, how are parents going to be, how are they going to feel about this?
Well, as a person who's had a member of my family die from an overdose, I'm so grateful. As I keep pointing out, I bring you up all the time, but I'm so grateful for Stephanie actually stepping out and doing what all of us have such a hard time doing. So thank you. I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but I need people to keep hearing it. She's doing some billboards and stuff out there, and I was just going to say this. There's one that has a salt shaker. It's the one that shakes me up the most, but it's a salt shaker with just a couple sprinkles of salt out, and that's enough fentanyl. That's how little it can be, that we can, these drugs are contaminating things and our kids are in trouble. So
And just one more, we are going to be hosting August 31st is National Overdose Awareness Day. And so we are hosting an event located at Valerie's house on August 31st. And so we're currently proceeding with that. So if you have been impacted or know anybody that has, there will be flyers and such that will be out.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, so before we get out of here, I will let a couple departments give a couple quick updates, Chief Randall and Chief Craner, and then also if Tanya can talk a little bit about some of the Roger Scott projects at Parks and Rec. I figured you may want an update on that, and then Amy Tootle as well in Public Works with anything else happening in the district. So I'll give them a couple of minutes and then maybe get out of here a little early and we can stick around if you have any other questions. But thank you.
All right, well, good evening. Here, just some updates from your police department. We've been busy over the last 2 years. I keep a tally of all the new things we do in the police department, and that list continues to grow each and every month. And I'm amazed about the empowerment and engagement that the officers and the staff have in the police department. One of the big signature things that we talk about in policing, the 21st century policing, is the use of technology. This won't affect District 1, but it's going to be an example in District 7 over on the west side when we add ShotSpotter to that particular area. I mean, that's going to be a game changer from an investigative standpoint and to reducing crime and increasing quality of life in that area as well. One new thing that we just advertised for a new position, thanks to the mayor and the mayor's office staff, is our community response specialist. So we're taking a new holistic approach on how we deal with homeless response in our community. So we're going to have a community response specialist that's assigned to the police department working out of our community outreach division that's going to partner with our officers and be able to be proactive in dealing with some of the issues that we have with transit and homeless and making sure we get the appropriate resources responding in the most appropriate time. One of the things we continue to deal with, specifically up in District 1, is retail theft. Retail theft, that's nothing new, not only just to District 1 or Pensacola or Escambia County. I mean, that is a rise in crime all over the country. So you've probably seen the news with some stores like Walgreens and CVS are locking up the freezers and putting things behind different lock devices. But retail theft is one of the things that we continue to battle and continue to work with our retailers with. We have officers that work a lot of our retail areas, Walmart, the mall, and places like that. So we try to educate the businesses and things of that nature. Car burglaries. This is something easy that we as a community can work to help to continue to work to reduce, is by locking our cars and putting our valuables away, not leaving them visible. I've just been surprised by some of the people I just talked to, just in sporadic conversations around the community that just leave their car unlocked. I ran into a lady a couple months ago. We were just having a general conversation about parking, and she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. My keys, it's unlocking the keys in the ignition." She's like, "Nobody's gonna sit by the car." I said, "Ma'am, yes, they will." So we had a very good conversation about how that's a bad idea, no matter what type of car you got, whether it's new or old. Traffic enforcement. We talked about traffic. Traffic on Langley. I took some notes since I've been here, but we do a lot of traffic enforcement each and every day. One of the biggest complaints that we get on the police department is about speeding and different things in the community. So we're looking at all kind of different innovative things to do when it comes to traffic enforcement. I've been talking with Caitlin Serene, our traffic planner, about some of the flashing speed indicator signs like you have in City Heights. There's a couple other neighborhoods that have asked about a speed trailer, but you know what? That flashing speed sign really makes a difference. So we're looking at how we can deploy that into other neighborhoods around the community. But our motorcycle guys and our traffic engineers out there each and every day, and we're rolling the speed trailer out. Another thing we're looking to do is that we find value in is increasing foot patrols. So hopefully you'll start to see officers in different neighborhoods increasing their foot patrols, getting out of the cars, engaging a little bit more. But also what comes with that is we have 13 officers in training now, and our plan is to get those 13 officers on independent patrol, which increases our proactive time, which allows, when I say proactive time, it increases our time where we're not bogged down for call, and calls for services. So increasing foot patrols, being out of the vehicle a little bit more and a lot more engaging. And last couple things, last week we finished our annual Camp Hero. Our community outreach division, our school resource officers, and our other officers from around the department. This is a camp we hold every year for young kids from age 6 all the way up to teenage. And we had like 60 kids that we had for a week. This camp has always been a success. We get them to the police department, we get them out to the Naval Air Station, to the Naval Aviation Museum. We had Life Flight Fire Department was there last week as well, and a whole host of different things. That's to continue to engage our youth, because our youth is important, and also to build team building skills, leadership, and collaboration and coordination as well. And then last but not least, this Friday is one of our last Friday Fun Days. We'll be right up here at Gold Point, where we take Fridays throughout the summer at the summer camps, and we spend a few hours with the kids engaging in games and the sports, and hopefully we've been successful. We haven't had anybody go out on light duty yet, so hopefully this last Friday we'll get through it. But those are some of the updates from the police department. Like I said, we are busy. We're doing all kinds of stuff, staying engaged, and we appreciate the feedback. And thank you for all that you do in the community as well, because we wouldn't be able to do nothing that we do without the support and love from our community that we have in Pensacola. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And before Chief Craner goes, a couple things. Obviously, we'll have those departments speak, but any department directors that have a District 1 update certainly don't want to exclude you. You know, keep in mind, everybody up here has worked a full day in the office and is on overtime over here, making sure that we get the word out for you. So I don't want you to have to sit here, and if you got an update, to be able to share that. So make sure, just because these departments, we're not excluding you, make sure if you share anything that you'd like before we get out of here. But I also want to say, Caroline my daughter got to do Camp Hero, and if you had a child there that was hit by a police officer with a water balloon, he's probably the guy in the back right here. Just percentages say Captain Goss, but no, she had a great time. She was ready to do it again next week. So anyway, it was a great job, and all our officers do such an amazing job interacting with the community. So anyway, thanks, Chief.
All right, so a little bit about your fire department. There's different ways you can interact with your fire units, and I'd like to tell you about some. Obviously, there's a fire or a medical emergency or any kind of a service call at your home, but there's other ways you'll interact with us. You'll see our fire marshals at your businesses performing inspections. If you need extinguisher training, you have a smoke alarm installed in your home, just like the mayor mentioned. We do escape planning. That is one of the major things that we want to train all of our community on. We do car seat installations and car seat checks. The Pensacola Fire Department and Healthy Start are two of the only places in Pensacola that are certified car seat technicians. Hazard monitoring, as was mentioned. Thank you, Brian. One other thing I wanted to mention about that was, remember, it used to be the first 72 are on you. Now it's the first week. That best practice has changed in the entire state, so we really want you prepared for a week's worth of food, medications, water, everything, pet food, everything that you need for your family if you choose to ride the storm out in Pensacola. Additionally, we have fireboat if you need us. We're excited to have our fireboat out there with the American Magic, helping them out if they need any of our assistance. And also, I would say that I lost my train of thought, but if you can connect with us at cityofpensacola.com, you can reach out to us for any services that you need. We have some of our cards up there with a phone number if you don't have internet or email access, and we really do want to put a smoke alarm in every home in the city. And the mayor mentioned a new program that's coming out that he'll be able to announce soon. We're also partnering with Healthy Start on a program that will release that information too, to help reduce infant mortality in our area. So we have a whole community risk reduction campaign in your fire department, in addition to a less than 5-minute response time and your local option sales tax money, giving you a brand new Fire Engine 6 at the 9th Avenue McAllister Station in August. We'll have that engine on duty. So thank you for the local option sales tax. And to our members of the community in here that work on the CERT teams with the neighborhood associations, we need that disaster help. So thank you for that.
And you can thank her for the weapon that you all have.
Yeah, ISO. tell them about your ISO rating.
Yeah, we are an ISO Class 1 fire department, which is the highest in the country. Very few fire departments have that rating, so you should check with your insurance company and find out if that provides you with a reduced premium. If we could control wind, you'd really have a lower insurance premium. So we can't control that right now.
I'm still trying to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a few updates that haven't been talked about so far this evening. Just wanted to let you all know that Florida Power and Light is going through the process of transitioning out their street lights. And so they're converting everything from the old high pressure sodium lights over to LED lights. We have regular meetings with them, and they are looking to be in District 1 around September to start the conversion within District 1. What we are seeing in some of the other districts in certain locations is that they are very bright. It's very different than the old yellowish high pressure sodium, which is a good thing in some cases and can be a nuisance in others. So we are aware of the problem. So in that when it does come to you, if there is an issue, if it becomes too bright or it's reflecting and casting out on your property, we are aware. You can just inform us, and then FP&L is already proactively after this this last round ordering more what they call shields, so they'll be able to put them on the street lights to help reflect the lights and deflect them downward onto the street. So just be aware that that's coming in September-ish. Along with some other projects that we have going on, Marketplace Pond, right there over behind Cordova Square. That was a project that we were trying to earlier in, I think, the end of last year, trying to get put out. And what we were trying to do there is expand the capacity of the pond. And we have funding for it. We put it out for solicitation last year, but the prices came in way over budget. As with everything with COVID and such, so we are getting ready to put that back out for bid. We reduced the scope a little, so we're not going to, enlarge it as much as we had previously intended, but we're still hoping to be able to put that project out and get some more capacity in that pond. The other drainage project that we have is going on Summit Boulevard, right there at Summit Boulevard and Piedmont. We know that there's a drainage issue in there, in that area, so we are taking a look at where the water's coming from and getting a design together to implement some sort of flood relief and some measures that will help with the flooding at that particular intersection. We have construction anticipated in early 2024 with completion somewhere around summer 2024. So those are a couple of the highlights for your district.
Thank you.
All right, and just so you know, Tanya and Parks and Rec give some updates from right here where we're sitting. But I also, just so everyone's aware, I've also had an off-schedule meeting with FPL about the future plans and my expectation of them, FPL and ourselves, doing a better job in terms of tree trimming. And that we had a special meeting this last week and had clarity of expectations of what we expect, not just an approval, and understand with tree trimmings around wires, there is limitations of what we can and can't do. But I left that meeting feeling very encouraged that we'll be on top of and be able to keep everybody aware. And there's different levels of what they do. Sometimes it's more cut back than others, depending. And I know there's some projects coming. So with their help, we're going to do a much better job of staying on top of what those projects are and getting the word out to you guys. So just since you mentioned FPL, I had that meeting this week. So anyway, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, right behind us here, the Roger Scott Tennis Center, we are in the midst of replacing the hard courts, and we're about, is it 60% completion, and anticipating we'll be finished in the winter, late part of this year, calendar year, we're hoping. And everything seems to be running on schedule and running smooth over there. We meet weekly with Public Works and their projects team to make sure that things are staying on track, and that one is very much staying on track right now. Roger Scott Pool bathrooms, we're still in the design phase for that, so that has not moved completely forward yet, but we are working on that diligently with Public Works as well. And some recent projects that the Parks and Recreation Department has completed, new sidewalks in Aviation Park and Roger Scott Park, as well as new playgrounds in Belvedere Park and Eastgate Park.
And one thing I'll mention the Roger Scott bathrooms, that some of that delay was self-inflicted by me. And what I mean is once we realized we weren't going to, the short timeline to have turned around since I've started to have it ready for this pool season. This is the last year of our contract with the current pool operator. So we want to be careful about going and redesigning an entire new pool house, and then whether it's the same operator or potentially a different operator, or it's internal, whatever ends up happening with the operation of the pool, it would be short-sighted, I think, to go design a full pool house and have it under construction, and then a new operator says, well, why didn't we have this many bathrooms or this kind of effort? So we're ready. We do have a design. They've been, we've gotten it to a certain point, and we're kind of just in a little bit of a holding pattern as we finish this swim season, and we're going to reassess what our options are, not just at Roger Scott, but the 3-year operating agreement with the Y is coming up, so we certainly have to have a conversation with them and make some decisions. So our intent would be to, of course, move that as quick as possible, but we want to be prudent with your tax dollar and not build something that doesn't fit the existing or a future operator. So just give me an update on that.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also wanted to add too, we're looking forward to PPD being at Gulf Point on Friday with the kids for our summer camp program. Friday Fun Days, they've been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They've been to Fricker, Cobb, and Woodland Heights already, and the kids are wearing them out, but thankfully no injuries so far, so that's a good thing. And we'll be wrapping up summer camp here in just a few weeks. August 10th is the first day of school, and we will go right into our after-school program, which we are really excited this year to have the help of Escambia Children's Trust to be able to make it more accessible to the entire community and being able to offer it for free for children who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So.
All right, great. Any other updates anybody wants to give? That's it?
They need to go home.
Exactly. Yeah, I said overtime. That doesn't mean like actual overtime. They just have to be here working overtime. So anyway, thank you guys, and thank you for being engaged in your community, in your district. Thank you to Councilman Breyer, and again, a big thank you to our staff, not just here, but the 850 that work for the city that make it a job for me personally so rewarding, and we got people that work really, really hard to make this a great place to live. So thank you for your engagement, and certainly know we're accessible, and I know some of us will be around for a little bit longer if you have any more questions. But have a great night, and thank y'all so much.